everybody, and welcome to the MrEliMac channel. You know what? As I was doing this entire live thing, I forgot to do one thing, so let me go ahead and do that. You all can just join me as I do this thing. It's mainly just tweeting this out so that people will know that this is a thing that is happening, You just gotta let people know that this is happening and all. So yeah, just hang with me for 1 second. Live right now. Join in. All right. All right, so that's been tweeted out. If we'll see if it actually gets out there. But you know what? Just because I don't have a lot of people here, I'm just going to go ahead and start talking about it anyway. Thank you all so much. If you join in the replay, if you eventually pop in live, thank you again so much for coming in and joining in the fun as I discuss the big DCU announcement that James Gunn did earlier today. And the main thing that I wanted to really point out today was that there were a lot of big announcements, and I have the Variety article on my phone ready to pull up. That way we can talk about a little bit more about not only what was discussed in the video, but also what he talked about, what James Gunn and Peter Safran spoke about during the press event. Because I think the press event is very important to mention as well, since a lot more information, a lot more detail was added than just was in the video. But the very first thing, let's talk about the video first, in like sort of the order of what was spoken about. In very much the beginning, James Gunn very much spoke about the movies that are currently coming out next year, with it being I forgot the movies that are coming out next year. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He very much said that these movies are coming out. They are actually happening still, and that The Flash is going to be the movie that resets the universe. Now, whether that means that Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom are actually a part of the reset universe, that is still up in the air. I think that was a question that I think a lot of people were hoping to be answered, but unfortunately that question was not fully answered. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if there's more confirmation on that. I just realized I'm about 3 minutes into it and I forgot to say this little live stream that I'm doing, because I might do more of them in the future if they are successful. Also hit the notification bell, that way you can be notified whenever a new live stream comes out, and also subscribe to the channel, that way you can be up to date with all the videos I have here on the channel. And also, he very much stated that all those 4 movies were going to be coming out still, and Flash was going to reset. Whether Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom are part of the new universe, that is very much up to debate and up for interpretation, I believe, and until he gets to the main point of everything. And I think another major important thing that is going to be talked about is DC Elseworlds. He very much confirmed that the Batman is and Joker and Teen Titans Go. He specifically mentioned Teen Titans Go, which was very interesting. That sort of side of things, that Teen Titans Go, the Batman trilogy and the Batman universe, and Joker are going to be in Elseworlds. And I really hope that when Joker 2 and the Batman Part 2, which is the official title, the Joker Part 2, get the DC Elseworlds sort of logo at the very start. That way, for people who aren't initiated in all of this, who are just casual fans, they'll know, hey, these movies are not connected to the movies that are about to come out. And Joker Folie à Deux is supposed to be coming out next year as well. And then they even gave us a release date for the Batman, which is October 2025. But very much starting with the actual DCU announcement that James Gunn had, he very much started out with talking about the TV show, or one of the TV shows, first. But I'm going to talk about the movies first, because the movies are sort of the big things that were announced. So the very first movie that he mentioned was Superman Legacy, which he even announced that it was going to be coming out in July 11th, 2025. And again, he mentioned that in the video, and he also later in Variety. I also think that it was very purposeful what images and what comic books sort of covers that he took from, like specifically a lot of the stuff that James Gunn took from was from Grant Morrison, and I very much think that was deliberate. I very much think James Gunn is a big Grant Morrison fan because Grant Morrison, they're an amazing writer and they've created so much great stuff for DC that it only makes sense that you take from that amazing writer. But specifically, James Gunn showed a cover image of All-Star Superman. And All-Star Superman is probably going to be a very much a story that James Gunn takes from, especially when it comes to like the grander things of what Superman is. But very much the thing that it was mentioned said that Superman Legacy would start the DCU, as Peter Safran put it, and it would not be an origin story for the Man of Steel. And to quote Peter Safran from Variety, it focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way, or for a better tomorrow. He is kindness in a world that thinks kindness is old-fashioned. Peter Gunn is writing the project, and it seems like Peter Safran really wants James Gunn to also direct the movie as well, but very much James Gunn has not seemed like he was very much wanting to direct it. I think James Gunn would be fine if someone else were to direct it. Who would be that director? I don't know. I don't even have a pick in my head. Like, there are a few names I would think, but none of them I think would probably do justice to a James Gunn script. So it's like trying to find that director that would be able to find that balance will be very interesting. Excuse me. Also, it was mentioned by James Gunn that Superman is for everyone. That's a 4-quadrant film of that should speak to everyone. And also in the Variety article, it was mentioned that the J.J. Abrams produced Superman film with Ta-Nehisi Coates writing it is still in development, and that will be an Elseworld Superman story. So yeah, I'm very intrigued, especially with how they described at least where they're looking to go with this Superman Legacy movie. It seems very much that we're going to be getting not a origin story, but sort of like a pseudo origin story. It's sort of like the Batman, how the Batman may not be a full-on origin story, but the Batman is sort of a pseudo origin story where we're starting to see the idea of Batman becoming more of a symbol for hope and heroism in Gotham than being more than just a symbol for vengeance. I think very much that's the direction that they may go. Not the Superman is hope and not vengeance, but I think the idea of getting a Superman movie of year 2 proportions of such that I've been seeing, like, yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm also interested to seeing again what more direction we're going to go with Superman. I know we're again getting a younger Superman, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the Superman Legacy has. This is one of the few projects on the DCU slate to have an actual release date, and so I'm interested to seeing where it goes from there. Again, also seeing how Peter Safran and James Gunn are very much looking at this movie as sort of the jumping point, the starting point for everything that is Superman and for the DC universe as a whole. I think that's a good decision to have Superman be the flag bearer, the one to start everything. So yeah, I'm very interested to see where this would go. And then the next film that Variety has in the article and sort of following down is The Authority, because it very much stated that Superman Legacy will lead directly into The Authority, an ensemble movie about superhumans who have a less than idealistic approach to saving the world. And then James Gunn is quoted to saying that he is really excited to bring The Authority to life since they are characters from Wildstorm and how they've been brought into DC because of the New 52. And Gunn would later be quoted as saying, "It isn't just a story of heroes and villains. Not every movie and TV show is going to be a good guy versus bad guy. There are people that are very questionable, like the Authority, who basically believe that they can't fix the world in an easy manner, and that and they take things into their own hands. And Peter Safran would later add that they're kind of like Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men. They know that you want they know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that. And James Gunn even stated that the film is currently being written right now, but he did not state who is the writer that is attached to the film. So the Authority is a group that I'm not 100% familiar with. I just know that they are a commentary on sort of heroism very much, and even Midnighter and Apollo are commentaries on Batman and Superman, respectively, and also the idea of Midnighter and Apollo being in a relationship is something very interesting that I'm actually looking forward to seeing, because it's a pastiche on Superman and Batman being in a relationship, which is sort of interesting and also very funny when I put all of it into the grand scheme of things. But very much James Gunn and Peter Safran are very much putting the pieces down of these are characters that will save the day, whether that is put in a new, basically what a government would do. They will like assassinate who they need to assassinate to do for the greater good. And I'm interested. I'm very intrigued by seeing the Authority as sort of early on in the first part, at least the first part of this grander chapter of Gods and Monsters. I think it's just showing that James Gunn has an affinity for the lesser known characters in the DC or in just comic books in general. He likes the lesser known characters and sort of like the obscure characters. So very much leading with obscure characters is a interesting thing. And I think it will help. I think there are going to be some people that criticize the idea of why are you taking these lesser known characters first instead of like the more popular characters, like give us the Superman, the Batman, the Wonder Woman, the Flash, like give all of those before we get into the obscure. But I think showing like doing the obscure early is good enough to let people know it's like, hey, this is the world that we live in, and this is the DC universe, because the DC universe is very known for their popular characters, but also their obscure characters. So I'm very intrigued to see where they go. I'm probably going to be getting a lot of comic books now. That way I can learn a little bit more about the Authority and get an idea of what direction that they're going to be going with this. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm not going to say I'm excited for the Authority, because again, I'm not the biggest Authority fan, but I am interested to see the direction that they go with these characters. But the next up, the next big one that they announced was The Brave and the Bold, which James Gunn very much stated this is our Batman movie. And it's going to be a Batman movie that introduces Robin. And it's going to have the Bat families. We're going to start seeing the Bat family, which is something that I even posted on Twitter, like as all of this was going around. I was very much stating, hey, James Gunn, can we have Robin? Like, can we, like, instead of doing the younger Batman trying to live in the shadows and stuff like that, can we do something different? Like, have Robin in the very first Batman movie? And we're getting Robin. Is it the Robin that I want? Not really, because very much it was stated that at least in the press release, that The Brave and the Bold is going to be having Damian as the Robin, and James Gunn stated that Damian is his favorite Robin, and he's very interested in going in that direction. And he even stated that they're taking influences from Grant Morrison's Batman run, as well as some influences from Tom King's run, which, okay, mainly it seems more focused on the Grant Morrison run, which again, the image that they showed was of Robin about to attack Batman, which in that Batman suit, it was Dick Grayson's Batman. So I am very interested to seeing the direction that they go with The Brave and the Bold, because I am a big Batman fan. I feel like out of all the characters, though I prefer Superman over Batman and even Nightwing over Batman at this point, because they're more of the optimistic heroes in the grander DC universe, I am excited to see that that Batman is going to be having the title of The Brave and the Bold, because that tells me a few things. That tells me that they're going to probably go with a bit of a lighter tone with Batman, because again, for years we've had this dark, gritty Batman, and I'm so happy that we're finally having some lighter Batman. And I see Matt, love you. I love you so much, Matt. I love you, and thank you so much for loving some MrEliMac. Thank you, Matt, so much. But yeah, I'm very the Brave and the Bold. I'm Matt. You're in the chat now, so tell me, what are your thoughts on the Brave and the Bold? Because I'm looking forward to this new iteration of Batman. Because again, I said it earlier, and I've been saying it for quite a few times. I'm getting tired of dark and gritty Batman. And Matt, thank you so much for the beard love. It's been going for a while. It's been going for a while. And I've been getting tired of dark and gritty Batman. I love the Batman. I love the Batman. The Batman was one of my favorite movies of last year. And it was taken from inspiration of the early Batman runs, of the darker Batman runs. But I think I've finally gotten to the point, at least if we're going to do main universe Batman, I want a lighter tone Batman. Everyone talks about how the DC animated universe is the best version of Batman. And if we look at the DC animated universe, Batman tells some jokes. He's a bit lighter than all the other versions of Batman that we have. I feel like that we finally gotten to the point where we can have a Batman that can quip a little bit, that can be a little bit witty, and have a Bat family. It's literally been since 1997 that we've had a Bat family. And that Bat family was very much Batman and Robin, and I am ready to get a better version of that. So I'm gonna bring this back up. It's Damian Wayne as Robin, so it's officially the least interesting thing on the list for me. I hate Damian Wayne. Look, Matt, I understand. I'm not the biggest Damian Wayne fan as well. Again, my favorite Robin is Dick Grayson, and that goes on through the Nightwing stuff. But I will say I am interested to seeing the direction that they're going to be going for with Damian Wayne, because if you do it like this, because again, so many people have brought this up as well. Like when you're in comics, you sort of have to reset things so many times. But when you're in movies, you sort of have to progress the story. You can't reset it every single time. So I really hope that's what they do with Damian Wayne. Like once they introduce him, they give him an arc. That way, by the time he's like, I don't know, like by the time the actor who's playing Damian Wayne is in his 20s, maybe he can be less of a prick, because Damian Wayne is a prick. I again, I understand, but hopefully by the time, like after a while, he can have good character development. I also hope that this is a way, because I saw this on another live stream and I thought this was very interesting, of having Red Hood being the main antagonist of the Brave and the Bold, and having the Brave and the Bold sort of be this story of failed fatherhood, or trying to be that story of having like all the Robins in one movie, having Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, which would be the main antagonist as Red Hood, Tim Drake, and Damian being like pushed into the new Robin position. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Again, I think that's the main takeaway from the Brave and the Bold. I nearly called it Batman the Brave and the Bold. That's a different thing. But the Brave and the Bold has me interested. I'm Authority interested. Brave and the Bold interested. Superman Legacy, I'm very excited for I'm very excited for Superman Legacy. Really, that's your ranking? That is such an interesting ranking. Well, Tim is very popular. Yeah, Tim is a very popular Robin. I keep on forgetting Tim was basically the second Robin in the DC animated universe. But yeah, that's a very good ranking. But you forgot about Stephanie Brown for that short stint she had as Robin right after Tim. Carrie, I like her in Batman The Dark Knight Returns. I like her in the way she is used in that comic book. I don't know if ever for the mainstream like DCU I would ever be interested in seeing her as Robin, but actually I would, but it would depend on the circumstances. I think I would look more towards Cassandra Cain being more of the female Robin than Carrie, but that's just based off of what I've seen and what I've read. And I think Cassandra Cain is a very interesting character. Again, I know a lot of people have shat on Cassandra Cain's interpretation and Birds of Prey, I didn't mind it because I look at it as different interpretations for different universes, and that was a different interpretation for a different universe. But anyway, we are finally moving on to the next movie, moving away from Brave and the Bold to Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which James Gunn specifically said that this movie is going to be based off of the miniseries run that Tom King had, which it is so beautiful. Like, the art is so beautiful. The story is so amazing. You need to go pick that comic up. I'm probably going to try to give it a reread as well. That way I can be more familiar with the story as the time that movie comes out. But James Gunn has stated that it is going to be a very different type of Supergirl. I'm hoping that the Superman movie, Superman Legacy, is going to be the Earthbound Superman movie. Like, have that be the Earth-based super movie, and have Supergirl be like your cosmic super person movie, where whenever it's dealing with Mongol or other stuff that Superman does in the comics cosmic sphere, Supergirl does all that. But when it deals with earthly threats like Brainiacs coming to attack Earth or Metallo or something like that, that's the Superman movie. Because I think that would be very interesting to have two different types of super stories. And again, like, James Gunn is later again quoted as saying, "We see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he is an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock chip off of Krypton and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible waves for the first 14 years of her life." And I am, again, that they show flashbacks of her origin story on that little chip of Kandor. Was it Kandor? No, it was Argo City. On Argo City in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So I'm very interested in seeing if we're going to get that. Also in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Crypto the Superdog is there. So I hope, and this is just me being a little Crypto fan and loving dogs, I want to see Crypto the Superdog. I want to see if we're going to be able to get Crypto the Superdog. Not voiced by Dwayne Johnson, by the way, just a dog. Because I love Crypto the Superdog. I also love the animated show that they had for Crypto the Superdog. So yeah, I'm very... Oh wait, Guns called this Supergirl much more hardcore, though King series also involved Crypto the Superdog. Yeah, so I'm hoping we get Crypto the Superdog, and I'm hoping that this movie shows some exciting things for Supergirl, because Supergirl is such an interesting character, especially in that Tom King comic. She is such an interesting character, and I think that this would be a good way for people to separate her as just being Supergirl's cousin, because again, everyone just knows her as Superman's cousin. Maybe this will be the way to get people to look at her as her own hero. And who knows, maybe if this movie is popular, if Supergirl becomes a big, smashing, rousing success, that will start getting DC to take her more seriously, the comic book line. Having DC Comics take her more seriously, while also at the same time potentially having her put in a role of prominence, because I think that would be such an interesting avenue to go down. Especially if they continue with the, Superman's a little bit younger and Supergirl is like the teenager still, and having that interesting dynamic if she ever goes to Earth. I'm very interested in this. And the final film that James Gunn and co announced was Swamp Thing, which is going to be the very much diversifying the portfolio of the DCU, which is James Gunn quoting the saying, Peter Safran said, "Investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing." And I very much think that this is going to be the horror introduction of, like, horror into the DCU. And I think it's nice to have horror sort of early in the DCU slate. That way people can be prepared and get an idea of, like, so this also exists. Instead of like how in the MCU, and I don't mean to compare it to the MCU, but I love comparing things to the MCU. And again, I don't mean to, but it's DCU, MCU, it's right there. But the MCU took 4 phases to introduce horror. Really, people can say Doctor Strange had some elements of horror, but it wasn't really until Werewolf by Night that we got some horror elements. And so with Warner Brothers and the DCU being like, hey, we're doing horror early on. I love it. I love the idea. I saw someone on TikTok asking why Swamp Thing is even there. Why not just do Justice League Dark? In my opinion, I think doing Justice League Dark right out the gate is too soon, because there are a lot of characters that I think you would want to build to. Is something that I think for Justice League Dark at least is something that, because a lot of these characters no one knows. Like in Justice League Dark, it's John Constantine, Zatanna, Deadman, Etrigan, and Black Orchid and Madame Xanadu. There's so many characters that not a lot of people know. So I think maybe having TV shows or movies of these characters, that way you get to Justice League Dark, it'd be a good way to do it. And yes, Matt, again, I agree with you. Horror film was used in the description. Yes, that great thing for Swamp Thing. I love getting horror early. I'm starting to appreciate horror more because I've been forced to watch more horror movies in my job as a movie critic at my place of work. So I'm starting to appreciate the horror genre more. So I cannot wait to watch more horror movies. And it's also the way he described it is having characters like Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy, meeting characters like Thor for Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and just getting it, one upping that and getting it early. And so it was also added by Gunn that this is a much more horrific film and we'll still have Swamp Thing interacting with the other characters. And I'm so excited for that. And oh, Matt, don't do that to me. My journey into the horror genre series. Look, you don't understand. Well, you probably do, but I have had to watch like so many different genre, like different types of horror films just last year. Got like supernatural horror, got sci-fi horror, just got slasher horror, and got, by the way, Barbarian. I don't know what type of horror you categorize that as. Such a great movie. Such a great movie. It kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. If you haven't watched Barbarian, go watch Barbarian. It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, Matt, I'm not saying it's becoming one of my favorite genres, but it is slowly turning into a genre I appreciate more. But those are the movies. Let's move on to the TV shows. And the first one that was mentioned was the Creature Commandos. And when I saw the image that they had for the Creature Commandos, all I could think was, this is such an interesting show. But when they said it was animated, I was so on board. I was more on board the moment they said it was animated, because these characters are so crazy. I don't know how you do half of the stuff you do with these characters in a live action show. So I am very excited, and Weasel's going to be in it. So I cannot wait to hear Sean Gunn do the creature effect. If he was the one, it was probably D. Bradley Baker. But yes, this was already, like the way it was described, this was the very first project greenlit by Peter Safran and James Gunn. James Gunn writing the entire show. The show is already in production, so we're going to be getting that pretty soon, I'm guessing. And it was led, like the team, like when you see the one human character, I believe someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but because it was mentioning that the comic was created in the 80s, I believe that's Sergeant Rock, because it can't be Rick Flag, because spoiler alert for the Suicide Squad, Rick Flag died, and so it can't be Rick Flag. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's hold on. This is an alternate universe from the Suicide Squad, maybe. So it could be an alternate version of Rick Flag. Who knows? I just know that I'm excited to watch an animated show with Frankenstein and him interacting with the DC universe. Imagine. Okay, I'm going to hit a pause on talking about what the show is going to be. Imagine Frankenstein's monster teaming up with Batman. Like, just think about that. Just think about that. That is such an interesting concept. I did not think I would ever say that sentence, and I just said it. So, Just what is that gonna look like? What is that gonna be? Frankenstein's monster meeting Batman. That's gonna be the moment Batman goes, well, now I've seen everything. So that's gonna be what wild. And yeah, James Gunn is also hoping to one of the Suicide Squad, one of the Commandos, along with Rick Flag's father. Okay, never mind. It's not Sergeant Rock. It's Rick Flag Sr. It's Joel Kinnaman's dad. So, okay, let me guess. Ed Harris, Bruce Willis, someone that could fit that role. I don't know. If it's Ed Harris, I know PLD Paul Denuzio would flip a lid and probably watch the entire animated show just because of Ed Harris. I don't know, but I am looking forward to seeing who they potentially cast because James Gunn very much said that he wanted to cast actors that yeah, you're right, it can't be Bruce. He retired. That's fair. That's fair. But I'm very much curious to see who he casts because excuse me, he is hoping to cast actors who can also play these characters in live action. So I'm curious who that's going to be. Again, Ed Harris? Ed Harris. That's just my first thought. It was just, again, if Ed Harris is ever in any DC besides wait, was Ed Harris? Yeah, Ed Harris was in A History of Violence. So besides that comic book property, if he's in any more, I'm gonna be shocked because he doesn't seem like someone that wants to be in comic book movies. Then again, I would have said the exact same thing about Harrison Ford, but look where we're going in the MCU now. Next was all right, so they announced sort of later through this that Peacemaker season 2 has been delayed because of James Gunn working on Superman Legacy and with all the stuff that he's doing. But I'm also assuming, I know they announced that the people that are officially writing this project or working on this project, where are the names? Jeremy Carver is executive producing, the guy who created the Doom Patrol. I've only seen episode 1 of Doom Patrol. I need to watch the entire show. I need to watch Doom Patrol. That's all I have to say. I need to watch Doom Patrol. But also that Crystal Henry will be one of the writers in the writer's room for Waller. And it's going to be taking place between Peacemaker season 1 and Peacemaker season 2. So I'm curious. And I love that we're getting Viola Davis back. Viola Davis is the one. Look, I'm someone that's a Snyderverse apologist, DCEU apologist, but we cannot deny that the shining gem of all of these is Viola Davis. She is the one that will outact every single actor in that entire universe. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller was the best casting that could have ever happened, and I never want that to leave this universe. And hearing that she's coming back to play Amanda Waller in this show is amazing. I really hope that it is a sort of a trial of Amanda Waller and having her doing political games and stuff like that. I love seeing the political part of some comic book stuff because we never see the politics of comics. We just see like, oh, here's a superhero, here's a superhero. They fight, the end. That's normally what we see. I want to see more of the, and I think this is what it's going to be, more of the political intrigue of what happens to the characters that are in government positions. That's what I want to see this show be. So I'm very curious to see what Waller is going to be. And yeah, it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, it's already like James Gunn is already calling it the greatest show ever. And so I'm assuming that they've already have a few scripts written of a few of the episodes. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for this show now because Viola Davis is going to be killing it. The next TV show that was announced was Lanterns, which is going to be the two main human lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, doing a true detective type of story on Earth. Now, my one critique on this idea, because I love Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, I love seeing them work together. Do I prefer Jon Stewart as my main Green Lantern? Yes, I do, because I grew up with him. But my main critique on this idea is that I don't like that it's terrestrial. I don't like that it's on Earth. I would rather them do a big true true detective mystery type dark story, if it was in outer space. Can we put the Green Lanterns in outer space? Can we have them do stuff out there? Because imagine if it was one of those like, let's say the King of Thanagar, maybe. Yeah, the King of Thanagar. I'm just gonna put King of Thanagar got taken out, and now Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart have to do a entire crime. Who killed the King of Thanagar? I don't know. You could do that. You don't have to have it be, oh, human died, and the only two people that can solve this crime are the Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. I mean, maybe the ideas are there, and I have great family in the background. I love them here. But yeah, like so much can happen with the story. I just think I prefer them in outer space. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. I love them. But again, I think, yeah, even though Peter Safran says that this show is going to play a big role leading into the main story of their universe, I mean, if you want it, okay. So, if you're going to do an Earth-based mystery, you don't need a murder mystery, that is. You don't need it to be the Lanterns. You could have made it the Question. The Question's trying to solve a mystery. Or you could have made it, I don't know, someone from the GCPD, Renee Montoya maybe? I don't know. It's just there's so many other characters of detectives that actually live on planet Earth that you could have do this mystery. Again, nothing against the Green Lanterns, but I feel like if you're going to have a mystery with the Green Lanterns, it needs to be an outer space mystery. It needs to be a mystery in the cosmos, not on Earth, if that makes sense. I hope that's making sense because, again, that's just my opinion. And yeah, and this is completely, also they mentioned that this idea is completely separate than the ones that Greg Berlanti was making. And so the next TV show was Paradise Lost, which is a Game of Thrones-esque story set before the birth of set before Wonder Woman. Nobody said the mystery isn't cosmically related. You know, Matt, you're right. You're right. I'm just assuming that it was a terrestrial story. That's very true. That is bad on my part for just assuming that it was a terrestrial story, that it wasn't cosmically based. I apologize. It's just when you hear terrestrial and Green Lanterns, you're just like, I don't want them on Earth. You like, again, that's just one of the things that I just want to see them in outer space. But next we get Paradise Lost. And again, Matt, thank you so much for saying that because I wasn't even thinking of that. But anyway, next, Paradise Lost, great Game of Thrones-esque story set before the birth of Wonder Woman. Okay, so I like that we're getting Amazon stories. I like that we're getting a Themyscira story without Wonder Woman. I very much enjoy that. Do I wish this was just something, I don't know. Because I understand why they're avoiding Wonder Woman too, especially after all the Gal Gadot, the Patty Jenkins movies. I understand why they're avoiding them. I wouldn't want to touch Wonder Woman either because you want to sort of separate Wonder Woman, like your new Wonder Woman, from the former Wonder Woman. You want to separate them and you want to give it time to breathe. But I don't know if doing a story like this would helps. I don't know, but it's just the way they described it is sort of like the origin story of Themyscira. Like, how did it come to be? How were all the factions created? I don't know if that's a story that I'm interested in per se. Am I gonna watch it? Yes, because I think depending on who are involved in creating it, I think it would make a very interesting show. Also, Game of Thrones-esque. I'm a big proponent for Game of Thrones. I very much think Game of Thrones is a good show. And so I'm very interested in seeing what a DC like Game of Thrones type show is going to be like. More family behind me. You gotta love them. But yeah, I'm very interested to seeing what direction they go with Paradise Lost and how Game of Thronesy we're gonna get. But anyway, the final TV show that was mentioned was Booster Gold. Now, there were talks with Zack Stentz a long time ago about doing a Booster Gold movie, and he was going to be writing it, but we didn't get that. We were going to get Booster Gold in Legends of Tomorrow, but they canceled Legend of Tomorrow before Booster Gold could fully be invested into the show. So I'm excited for this show, like, because again, I'm not the biggest Booster Gold fan, but I'm someone that would love to see Booster Gold because he's a character that a lot of people have a lot of love for. So I would personally love to see a character like that get a time to shine, and especially if it's going to be a comedy show, because that's Booster Gold. He's basically a comedic character. He's not meant to be taken seriously. So yeah, I'm very much interested to seeing the show. Oh, the biggest news out of it leaves the door open for Gal to return. That is true. That is true. Oh, that's right. I keep on. Look, Matt, thank you so much for being here and correcting my butt, because I don't know what I'm talking about half the time, because sometimes I read the full article and my brain just spaces. There were points in the article that mentioned, and like through different outlets, that mentioned that James Gunn and Peter Safran are still very open to working with Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, unfortunately Ezra Miller, and Zachary Levi, to return as those respective characters. Now, I think they also mentioned that James Gunn was speaking with Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck was very interested in directing one of the projects. Whatever project that would be, I don't know. I think it would be hilarious if Ben Affleck directs The Brave and the Bold, and he's not Batman. So it's like, oh, you had a chance to make a Batman movie. A lot of stuff happened. You're not making a Batman movie, and or I did watch James Gunn's video, and it was a while. I was literally just waking up as I saw that the video was live. And so I just watched the video, and my brain was like trying to wake up still, but I was still very excited for all that stuff. Look, a lot happens from when I first watched something to later, because a lot of time spans. But yeah, I'm very interested to seeing if any of those characters come out. And I'm also James Gunn mentioned that The Flash was the greatest superhero movie that he has seen. I'm uh I hate hearing that, because a part of me, I'm going to watch it because of my job, but a part of me doesn't want to support the Flash movie because of Ezra Miller. And I don't care what Peter Safran or anyone says, like, oh, Ezra Miller is in recovery. They're getting better. They're la 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 la. Like, I don't care. I don't want Ezra Miller to be the Flash anymore. I want, if they do another Flash project after this, I want it to be someone else that isn't Ezra Miller. And that's just a personal thing for me. And Jason Momoa, I would love for him to come back as Aquaman, and maybe even Lobo. Wouldn't that be funny if just in the same universe, one actor is playing two characters, two prominent characters? I mentioned prominent for a reason, because Gemma Chan plays two characters, Michelle Yeoh plays two characters. They both play two characters in the MCU, but one character that they play is not as important as the other character they play, if that makes sense. But I would love to see Jason Momoa return as Aquaman. I think Jason Momoa is very much a shining light, especially when Peter Safran stated that Momoa looked at it as a trilogy of Aquaman movies. So I'd be interested to see the trilogy wrap up. Yeah, I'm just very intrigued by all of this. Also, keep Blue Beetle in this universe, please. I'm hoping that Blue Beetle is great. That way we can do the Booster Gold TV show, and then we can just have a TV show or movie called Blue and Gold, where it's just Blue Beetle and Booster Gold together. And I know, like, Booster's Blue Beetle is Ted Cord, but I don't mind if it's Jaime Reyes. I don't mind if it's a different Blue Beetle. We had a different Blue Beetle when they did Smallville. It was Jaime's Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. I mean, why not? So yeah, I'm very overall, when it comes to the DCU, I'm very interested to seeing to seeing what happens in the future. I'm not going to say I'm fully excited for it yet. I am excited to 60%. 60% excited, 40% or 20% interested, 20% hesitant. Because again, we've seen slates go up and then everything just change last minute. And I'm hoping that with James Gunn and Peter Safran, we do have a chance to fully solidify this as the main thing going forward. Do I have any ideas of what they could do or what they're going to be doing? I have no idea. This is just, and am I shocked that this is just part one of the first chapter? Yes. I would have told you, like, if someone would have presented this and say, what do you think about this? I would have been like, oh, that's probably the entire first chapter of their DCU. I mean, that with all the projects they announced, I would have thought this was chapter one in total. And since it's just part one, I'm so curious on what part two is. I'm so curious on what sort of the continuation of chapter one, aka Gods and Monsters. Also, I like that they're calling them chapters. I very much like that, and I'm very hopeful that we're gonna. I can't wait to get closer to it. That way, when they get to the point where they're sort of like, "Oh, we got to release the rest of the chapter," I'm just interested and intrigued by what is going to be happening in the future for DCU, because overall, what we've gotten so far has got me 60% excited. And if I wasn't 60% excited, I would have called the reveal a failure. But because I'm 60% excited, it isn't a failure. It is a success. And I'm looking forward because, again, we're starting this out in 2025. And apparently, from what I saw somewhere or someone said somewhere, that Peter Safran is interested in doing 2 films and 2 TV shows a year. So that would mean 4 projects. That would mean 4 projects in 1 year, which is very cool. So that would probably mean Creature Commandos and Waller with Superman Legacy and The Brave and the Bold in 2025. No, it would be a bad idea to do The Brave and the Bold in 2025 because the Batman Part 2 would be coming out in 2025. So maybe like another movie. I can't think of it off the top. I can't think of another movie from the DCU right now. Wait, I'm looking at the freaking list. I can just look. Maybe The Authority. No, it'd be The Authority. I'm a dummy. Can we realize how dumb I am? Anyway, Superman Legacy and The Authority being the 2 movies, and Creature Commandos and Waller being the TV show. And that's 2025. 2026 will probably be The Brave and the Bold and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow with I'm scrolling through the Lanterns and Paradise Lost. That will probably be 2026, and then 2027 as of right now would be Swamp Thing and Booster Gold. So yeah, they have 3 years planned out right now, and they said they fully or like showed us 3 years, and they said that they planned out all the way to 8 to 10 years. And who knows? There are so many more projects that they want to do. That James Gunn mentioned video games, so I would be very intrigued by what sort of video games we would get that would be connected to this grander universe. I mean, I would be interested in so much more TV shows and more animation. I just love that James Gunn wants to add more animation and video games to this grander universe instead of just putting them on the side like, oh, they're over there. He's like, no, they are a part of us. We are one. We are one grand multiverse. And I'm so happy at that. But also, I forgot to mention this up top, but there was a writer's room that they did to like assemble this grand universe. And I did not expect that. I did not expect to read that there was a writer's room connected. The writer's room consisted of great writers like Drew Goddard. I'm just going to say that. Jeremy Slater, Christina Hobson, Crystal Henry, and Tom King. That's an amazing writer's room. And they're the ones with James Gunn and Peter Safran that created this grand 8 to 10 year plan. That's amazing. It's it's great that James Gunn was able to bring together a group of creative people and say, "Hey, let's work together and create this." I love hearing that. And though again, I didn't want to compare it to the MCU, but I'm having to do it right now. Though the majority of the time in the MCU, it's normally Kevin Feige going like, "Okay, here's sort of our roadmap that we want to do. We sort of want to do these stories." And maybe there's actually more than just Kevin Feige. It's just Kevin Feige is always the person in the front line, so everyone just assumes Kevin Feige is putting this together and hiring people to write the stories that he's just plotted out in his head. But I love seeing that there is a team, like a writer's room, creating this universe than just one person. Because I feel like having a writer's room is more collaborative than just having one person. But that's just my opinion on that matter. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens because we have all this year to get sort of the DCEU movies out of the way and the reset button with the Flash. Next year we have Joker, Folie à Deux to look forward to, and maybe another DC project that I don't know about. But then in 2025, that's when it's really going to be starting to heat up with Superman Legacy. Man, my camera is just hanging on by a thread when it comes to my laptop screen. But yeah, 2025, Superman Legacy, The Batman Part 2, maybe The Authority, maybe Creature Commandos, and maybe Waller. There's so this DCU announcement has brought me a little bit more hope than I had prior, because when we were just walking out in the darkness, not having a clue what's gonna happen, I was nervous because I wanted more of a concrete plan. And now that we have sort of a concrete plan, well, more of a concrete plan than we had prior, I'm a little bit more hopeful and I'm a little bit more excited to seeing what's going to be happening in the future. But with all that being said, everyone, what are your thoughts on everything that James Gunn announced in that video and even like through the press junket that they had yesterday? Because again, more stuff has been coming out about what they've been talking about. Again, they released a release date for the Batman Part 2, and also they haven't really released an announced date for the Penguin show, but I'm really hoping that we can get more of a release date for the Penguin. Also, they mentioned, I don't know if they mentioned it here, but I think they mentioned how they're probably wanting to do more on Superman and Lois another season. Maybe, who knows? But what are your thoughts on all this stuff? Whatever your thoughts are, post them in the comments post after the live is done. Also, hit the like button because that really helps me a lot. That really does. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video or another live stream happens, because I want more people to know when these things happen. I like doing this. I thought this was very good, even though I was all scrambled in my brain. I really like doing this live stream, so I want to be able to do more in the future whenever something major like this happens again. Also, hit the subscribe button. That way you can be up to date with all the videos and live streams that I have on the channel. But until next time, I've been MrEliMac. You've been the audience, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Let me get to this loop. Bye.